Welcome to the Crown Sports Podcast. We are very excited to be talking Utah sports with you all, mainly focusing on high school athletics. I'm your host, Bradley Richins.
And I'm your co-host, Niko, Klus, with our executive producer behind the scenes, Big Bad Braun.
We are going to start off with the CSP sandwich. We chose for our CSP sandwich this week something from 3A boys basketball. So, Niko, tell us what has impressed you in 3A basketball so far this season.
Well, you want to know what impresses me, first off? These basketball players and how tall they are in high school. It's ridiculous.
I wish I was that tall.
I'm 5'10", and I've been that height since I was a junior, and there are kids that are like 6'6", and they're like freshmen. It's ridiculous. But anyway, there's a kid from Providence Hall, Marcus Sherwood. We've watched him play before.
Yeah, we did.
At the beginning of the season, right?
Yep.
He's impressive. And he's 6'6". He's a senior, averaging 21.9 a game. Plus, he leads 3A in rebounds, or he's in the top 5.
I think he leads 3A. You're right. He does.
He leads 3A. Yes, he leads 3A with 12 rebounds a game. 12. A double-double in high school. That's impressive. And the fact, I'm looking at his stats, he has played in 16 games this year. In, 23 games last year to this year, he's already matched all of his season totals in 16 games.
Yeah, he's improved a lot since last year.
The kid did some work this offseason. Providence Hall they're rocking it right now. And we got to see him early on. They're a pretty good basketball team. I mean, I was impressed with them. They played a tight game up here against South Summit, but this Sherwood kid, man. And he has a younger brother that's a freshman.
Yep, Merrick Sherwood.
And so they got a good bloodline there. So I'm sure his little brother's going to come right up the ranks with his brother.
Follow the line, follow the family line. So I'll that's a good point. I'll get to Providence Hall here in a minute. But so this was tough, but my impressive thing that I wanted to focus on was also an individual, but is Kyson Stilson from Emory. So this is a guy who's he's fourth in the entire state in points per game, and the only person he's behind turns out to be another 3A player down in Millard County, but I'll get to him in a minute. So Stilson, he's second in the entire 3A in points per game. He averages 26.5. He's also listed among some of the best three-point shooters in the game at 2.5 threes per contest. He's active on the defensive end. He averages 2+ steals per game, so he gets after it. That allows him to do that on the 2-3 zone that Coach Jeffs always throws at opponents. And he's coming off a season-high 46 points last week against San Juan. And that's his second 40-point game of the season, so he gets buckets. And some of you may say, yeah, Brad, well, that's all well and good, but Emory's, like you said, they're fourth in their region in 15 with Manti, Richfield, South Sear, and everyone else. And to that I say, yeah, but overall they're 11-4. They've had a relatively tough season and a tough schedule on the season as a whole. And Region 15 is tough to be in. You got Manti, South Sevier, Richfield. Manti took state last year. South Sevier is always up there, and Richfield's improved a lot this season. And Emory's sixth in the entire state, 1A through 6A in points scored, and first in 3A in points scored. So the Spartans down in Castledale can light up the scoreboard with their usual run-and-gun offense and can hit the opponent with an arsenal of points at any moment. And Kyson Stilson, I think, is a big reason behind that. So that's something that's impressed me for sure.
But the big thing is when he has a down night.
That's true. Emory does struggle when he does have a down night.
It's a 3-and-go, right?
Yep.
You watch him play, no one goes inside the paint. And if he's having an off game, that whole team's having an off game. And that's why they're sitting at the bottom of region right now, where if they have a couple good games, then they'd be at the top of region. But they have a couple off nights, and it puts them in a bad spot going in the playoffs.
Yeah, like you said, defense is a struggle for them. I mean, they played San Juan in the last game. Stilson had 46, and they still lost by 5. It was 105-100. So
I mean, how many high school games do you hear of in the hundreds?
Yeah, not very many.
They're just chucking up threes.
Mm-hmm. But when they're on, and they're tough to beat.
That's when they're hard to beat. A disappointment that I've had this year is the Grantsville Cowboys. They took third last year, which was a big surprise due to the fact that they only took third in region. They behind South Summit and Morgan, and they were ahead of Summit Academy, if I'm correct. And they took third at state, which is very impressive.
They beat Delta in the 3A.
I mean, the fact that they got that far in the first place, I was thoroughly surprised when they got to the semis. But then they lose their top 3 scorers in Brady Arbin, Ryan Potter, and
Kevin Roberts.
And it was like they jumped off a cliff. They went from being one of the best, most solid teams in region, being a tough game, to kind of like the laughing stock of region, where they haven't won a game in region. Their record shows 3-14. That's disappointing, going from third place to that.
Yeah, they have had a tough schedule, but I like you said, losing their top 3 scorers who carry the majority of the load on the offensive end is tough. They're a relatively young team. We watched them play just this last week, and they're starting a freshman and a lot of sophomores who played freshmen last year. And like we just talked with Cale Atkinson will be coming on the show later to talk about the difference between 2A and 3A. That's a big jump, let alone going from freshman and sophomore ball to varsity ball. That's really difficult.
It is, but at the same time, you maybe thought they would have been more prepared practicing with those kids last year, but maybe they just practice differently and they got a different system going on and that works. But this year's been a big disappointment for me for them.
All right, so that's a good one. My disappointing is the Delta Rabbits, who took 4th place last year at state. So the Rabbits in the state tournament, they beat South Summit in the quarters. That was a tough game. And then they lost a tough game to South Sevier in the semis. And then, like you say, Grantsville defeated them and took 3rd place, while Delta took 4th. So coming into the season, there was a lot of expectation for this team. And I mentioned it previously, the person who leads 3A in scoring is Derek Smith. He's a leading scorer in 3A at over 27 points per game and 3rd in the entire state, being only a junior. And he was their star last year as a sophomore. I mean, the guy gets buckets. He has a really dependable 15-foot jumper, and watching him, he can get to the hole and finish to the rim with either hand. And the thing he's improved on the most over the offseason is his three-pointer. He's worked on that a lot in the offseason, and he has a really good 3-ball off the dribble. It doesn't matter if he's dribbling it, pulling up in transition, or catching and shooting coming off screens that Coach Topham has him running off of. But he had his breakout year last year, and people around the state, including myself, are watching this kid at state thinking how good this team's going to be getting back to where they were last year and possibly even finishing better. We had these expectations of these guys. And then, we at least thought they would finish 1st in their region, in Region 14. But they're currently 3rd in their region behind Juab and Providence Hall, like you talked about. And, we're halfway through region. There's still a lot of games left to be played, but Delta still has both Juab and Providence Hall at home included in their last 3 home games, which will conclude their regular season. But having returning starters from last year like Derek Smith and Jager Springer, who is another one who can fill up the stat sheet in regards to points, I simply expected more than what I'm seeing from them at this point. But the season is far from over yet, I guess, so we'll have to see what happens. But I just figured they'd be at least ranked in the top 5 in 3A.
But didn't last year they kind of went on a run at the end of the year, didn't they?
Yeah, they hit their stride for sure going into state.
Going to the playoffs, got in the playoffs, and then they were cruising.
Yeah.
There was tough games they played, but they run that screen like Kyle Korver does when he pulls up. But he's good.
Yeah.
He's only a junior.
Only a junior.
So he's got a lot of ball ahead of him.
Yeah.
A big surprise for me this year has been the Richfield Wildcats. Typically not the most basketball-savvy school you'd think of.
Yeah, I haven't heard of Richfield in basketball for a long time.
You put Richfield in a sentence, and I'm going to say baseball. Because they're ridiculously good at baseball year in and year out. And this year, they started off the year a little sloppy. They started off the year 1-4. And they lost to Judge by 8 points. They lost to Delta by 4. Then they lost to Hurricane, which is a bigger school, but they only lost by 1. And then they rip off 9 in a row, and they're destroying teams. They beat Manti by 11. They beat Juab by almost 20 points. They beat San Juan by 20, 25. And they just recently lost to South Sevier, who was 1st place, and they're 2nd place by 2.
And that was on the road
and
as well.
And that was at South Sevier. So when they play at home, that could flip-flop. There could be a tie at the top of that region. But that has thoroughly impressed me that a school you typically don't hear of basketball school is playing this well this late into the season. And then it's not like it's some fluke. They're competing. They're competing with the best of the best because South Sevier is always good. And to lose by 2 at South Sevier shows how impressive and how far they've come this year.
Yeah, they'll get another chance, another shot at the Rams at home in Richfield, and that's a heated rivalry, only being 20 minutes away, Richfield and Monroe.
And that's the last game of the regular season for them.
So a lot will come down to that game. South Severe being one ranked so far. I think Richfield was. I know they were too last
and
week.
They're third now behind Morgan, which is who bounced them, Richfield, in the first round last year. So they didn't even get in the playoffs last year. They got bounced in the play-in game.
Yeah, so I agree with you. That's a good pick. Richfield would be a scary team to face come postseason. So, but you alluded to it before, Niko. My surprise this season is Providence Hall. Man, have they turned it around? So I know I already talked about a team in Region 14, Delta, and how they've kind of been disappointing so far. But the Providence Hall Patriots, in their 14th, this is fourth rather, in their fourth season of existence, only coming into the season in 2015. They're making some noise this year finally. You talked about Marcus Sherwood. He averages a double-double with nearly 22 points, which is third in 3A, and more than 12 boards per game, which is first in 3A. But they're 13-3 overall, 7-0 in region play, and ranked fourth in the state in the 3A classification. So they've moved their way up. They've snuck into the top 5 in the rankings, in the Deseret News rankings. 2 of their 3 losses were really close. So they lost to a good Judge Memorial team by 4 points. And then, like we said earlier in the season, they lost on the road by 2 points to South Summit. So we've had a chance to watch them this year. And when we watched them, they weren't the most athletically inclined team. Like it looked like they didn't jump off the court as the most athletic team ever, but they're really well coached. They have good size with Sherwood and Dallin Dodge down low, and they're getting good production from their guards. So as I previously stated, I know they still have to go to Delta and prove that they can win on the road, which indicates the season isn't over yet, and they need to prove that they're a mature enough team to take that step and take first in Region 14. But I'm just saying, I'm looking in the direction of the Pats, and it's in the tip of my hat. I'm saying I see you over there in the corner, and I know how good they're doing, and they've done a good job so far.
Is that just because you're a Patriots fan?
Yes, exactly. I didn't think you'd catch that.
I kind of caught on to that towards the end when you started boasting about them.
Yeah, my bad. But it
watching them play, going back to they don't jump off at you. You watch them come out on the court, you would think they've never played ball. They don't look like they've ever played basketball, and they start playing, and they're tough. They're a tough team to play. And that South Summit game was back and forth the whole game, and their coach has got them locked in this year. So it's been pretty good watching them, especially being such a new school.
Yeah, that's impressive. We've seen Summit Academy come out of the woodwork, and it took them a while to gradually increase and get better. And American Heritage is another team that this is their inaugural season, and they're going to be coming up. And Providence Hall, that's going to be a dangerous team to beat coming in the postseason.
And I think a lot of it has to do with their coaches, consistency with the coaches, letting them, build up their program. Because I'm sure Providence Hall, when they first came out, it was kind of that was a warm-up game. But now that's a legit game.
Let us know what you think of our CSP sandwich on Twitter using the hashtag CSP sandwich. Now, a team in 3A that is normally not surprising due to the fact that they're consistently good is South Summit. The Wildcats are currently 12-5 overall and 3-1 in region. Their lone loss coming at the hands of the Morgan Trojans, who remain at the top of Region 13. South Summit has won 3 straight and 4 of their last 5. Now, as promised previously, we have on the phone with us Kel Atkinson, who is the leading scorer for South Summit, averaging just over 12 points per game. Kel, how are you? Thanks for joining us on the show.
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. So, Kel, I'm well aware that you're in full swing of the basketball season, but I wanted to sneak a football question in here. So, you've had success as an athlete throughout your entire high school career. You went to 4 straight championship games, winning the previous 2, your junior and senior year, but more specifically winning consecutive MVP awards in the 2A classification. So what does it mean to you as an individual to win 2 MVP awards 2 years in a row, which is, as you know, extremely difficult to do your junior year, let alone both your junior and senior year? So what does that mean to you? You're able to accomplish that feat, winning MVP 2 years in a row.
It's kind of crazy to imagine it just because it hasn't happened so many times, but I don't want to take all the credit. I'm going to give the credit out to my teammates. Every single one of them could have got an MVP, but I'm just happy I got it.
That's a good answer, Kale. I have a more interesting question. You come from a long line of family members that are wrestlers, and you chose basketball. Tell me about why you chose basketball over wrestling like the rest of your family.
Well, I used to wrestle when I was younger, and I don't know why I stopped wrestling. I guess I just like basketball more, so I've played basketball ever since third grade or whatever, but I did used to wrestle.
Yeah, I remember seeing you at wrestling tournaments, you and your brother, and then all of a sudden you stopped coming. And I was like, oh, I wonder where those Atkinson kids went. And lo and behold, you started playing basketball instead.
Yep. Fell in love with basketball.
It's not a bad choice.
No, it was a good decision. So, Kel, talking about basketball, focusing on that more, you guys have been able to win 3 straight. 2 last week, 2 of those wins being region play competition. You beat both Judge and Summit Academy in overtime last week. So with those 2 wins, how much confidence did those wins give you going forward as you try to keep pace atop Region 13 with Morgan?
It gave us hope. We lost Morgan our second game in region, and that was kind of a bummer, but they're a good team. But we went to Judge, went into overtime, and they're a really good team. And we came back home and in overtime to Summit Academy. They're also a decent team, but we're tied for second in the region right now, and hopefully we're going to win out and take first in the region.
Good answer again. So, the pace from 2A to 3A, there's got to be a big difference. So tell us how you've adjusted to that pace of play from 2A basketball to 3A basketball, because you've got to experience both with the years that you've been in high school.
Yeah, so we went 3A last year at basketball, and it was definitely a big change. We still played Summit Academy there in our region in 2A, but definitely Morgan and Grantsville and Judge, they all have great teams, and it just makes the region a lot tougher.
Was it surprising, the pace of play, or did you feel like you guys were prepared for it?
I feel like we were prepared. I guess a game is just a game, but I feel like we were definitely prepared for it.
So, like I said, you guys have won 3 games and won 4 out of your last 5, and that's recently due to the fact that you guys have gotten a lot of production out of both Jared Danzy and Logan Davis, and especially on the offensive end. So how much does that help you as a team when those 2 are as efficient as they have been recently on the offensive side of the ball?
Logan, he's been crazy lately. His first quarters, he always scores like 12 points, and that's awesome. And Jared, I read a thing in like a news article the other week, and it said that Jared's been shooting 70% from the 3-point line. That's crazy to me because I'm definitely not that high, and it's definitely good to have both those 2 on our team.
So, in defensively, let's go back to that Summit Academy game. Last week you only had, I think, was it 4 points in that game? And so you didn't help much on the offensive end, but defensively you guys have been very good. And what has helped you play well defensively all year?
Our coach always tells us you can always play good defense. You're not always going to have a good offensive game, and it definitely showed against Summit Academy. But we had an awesome defensive game, and I think it was 17-13 at halftime for us, and we went into the locker room, and we thought coach was going to be mad because we weren't playing very good. But he said if we score 17 points and they score 13 points, we'll win.
It's always been a focus of Coach Hatch's to always stress defense and how important it is. So it's good to see that it's paying off because even in an overtime game at home, you guys held Summit Academy to 38 points. So, Kel, we saw in football how good of a chemistry you had with certain guys and a lot of the relationships you were able to build on that team. And a lot of them you play basketball with as well. So how much would you say your positive relationships with your teammates correlates with your success in terms of wins as a unit?
Most of all of my teammates, we've been best friends for as long as I can remember, and I guess it does really show. I mean, we all won state championship last year and this year, and at one point this year, the 5 first-team All-Staters started on basketball for us, and we were all best friends, so it was just awesome to experience that.
And just to go along with that, how does it help you to, let's say, keep each other positive, to keep each other going? Does it help out having your best friends on the team to, want to try harder, want to play harder, where you can be just complacent because you guys are so good in football, but how to stay motivated in basketball as well?
Yeah, it definitely helps a lot to have them on there because if we even make a mistake or anything, everybody teases each other about it. And, none of us get upset when they tease us. It just motivates us more because they're just laughing at us, but that's okay.
And that's good team chemistry then if you can poke fun at each other.
So, Kel, like I said, you're 3-1 in region, okay, and you still have away games in Grantsville and Summit Academy, 2 teams you've previously beaten, but you have home games against Judge and Morgan, which hopefully will fare well for you guys. As we said previously, South Summit has always been a consistently good team with Coach Hatch always stressing defense. However, throughout your high school career, it seems like in terms of basketball, you haven't been able to quite get over the hump and really reach that upper echelon of teams. So, what do you think you need to do differently as a team in order to make it over the top and through the postseason to get where you want to go this year?
I think we got to focus on our defense. We've had good defensive games and bad defensive games, and I definitely think if we keep our opponents to at least 10 points a quarter, pull them to 40, we can win whoever we beat, whoever we play.
And with that, how far do you think you guys can go this year? Do you feel as if you can make a run at this thing as we get into this late part of the season?
Yes, I think this year's title is up for grabs for anyone. And last year, it was too. So I'm just excited to see how it all plays out.
Well, Kel, we appreciate you joining the show, and we know that we've had an ample opportunity to be able to watch you guys play this year, and we thank you for coming on the show, and we wish you good luck to the South Summit basketball the rest of this year.
Thank you.
Our next segment is swipe right or swipe left. We're going to say a statement. If you agree with the statement, you're going to swipe right and tell us why. If you disagree with the statement, you're going to swipe left and tell us why. So, Niko, first one. The Utah Runnin' Utes men's basketball team will make it to the NCAA tournament this year. Swipe right or swipe left?
I'm going to swipe left even though I'm a Ute fan. Cedric Butterfield, doing pretty good this year, right? Leads the Pac-12 in three-pointers, coming off the bench. But other than that, I don't really see anything. And so I've been watching their games. Not that impressed this year. So I'm going to swipe left on that and not get my hopes up.
I'm going to swipe right.
Ooh.
Only because
Risque.
So Cedric Butterfield, like you said, he's really thrived in that 6-man position that he'd been put in. He got taken out of the starting lineup and inserted in the 6-man rotation, and he's really thrived from that, like you said.
Not that it's a demotion, but it's just he plays better coming off the bench.
Absolutely, and each player has their niche of how they perform on the court, and that's his role. Parker Van Dyke, he has his games where he's on fire and he goes 5 of 5 from the field, and then he has other games where he goes 0 for 6. So I think a lot of their success depends on Van Dyke and other guys like Donnie Tillman who can continue to hit shots from the outside. But the key, I think, will be developing young guys like Riley Batten, the freshman, another freshman, Timmy Allen, and both Gotch, like coming off the bench and giving good minutes. And for the starters, the young guys, they gotta step up, and
they need consistent points. Yeah. That's the biggest thing. If they're not in in the 10+ column, then it's going to be a bad night for them as a team.
Like last week at the Huntsman, they destroyed Colorado.
Quality opponent, Pac-12.
They're up by double digits almost the whole game, and then they dropped. But I just think they'll make it because UCLA, Arizona, teams like that are having a down year.
That's true. The Utah Jazz will make a top 4 seed in the West. They have the easiest remaining schedule in the league. Swipe left or swipe right?
I'm going to swipe right on this one. And this hurts me being a Thunder fan.
I love this answer so far.
Being a Thunder fan, I got to be objective. The Jazz have won 8 of their last 10. Like you said, they have the second easiest remaining schedule in the whole league. They have the easiest remaining schedule in the Western Conference. With Rubio out, Donovan Mitchell at point guard has been superb. And Gobert it's scary, but he has officially gotten better on the defensive end, which is hard to believe considering he won DPOY last year.
Did I see you swallow something as you said all this? Is that your pride?
It's a pill. It's a real hard pill to swallow.
That's a big one, isn't it?
And I just think that they'll be able to make a push if they finish top 4, then they finish top 4. But I think they'll get a top 4 seed. I think the worst they will do is a 4 seed in the West.
I'm gonna swipe right as well, just because I've been arguing with you about it all year. But I watched them play last night against the Blazers. Solid game. Blazers are a good team.
Blazers are good.
What happened last night? Joe Ingles didn't get in the 10+ column. So if they can get the rest of the team going with Gobert and Donovan dropped 36. That's pretty good for just your second year in the league. And so I think they can make a run at this and get a top 4 seed.
Yeah, I think if they can continue to get consistent output from Ingles and Crowder and Corver from the three-point line, they'll be a dangerous team. Number 3, the Rams will avenge their loss in the 2001 Super Bowl and defeat the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 53 in 2 weeks. Swipe right or swipe left?
This is like the worst question you could ask because I'm going to swipe left because I don't think the Rams can beat the Patriots, but I also don't think the Rams should be in the Super Bowl due to, I mean, if you've noticed this week, there's a rule that states the commissioner can actually overturn the game and put the Saints in the Super Bowl instead of the Rams, which, in my personal opinion, I think should happen. It should be a Tom Brady, Drew Brees, old man duel. Instead, I hope, even though it pains me to say it, that New England just beats the living crap out of the Rams and Jared Goff just gets put to sleep.
You think they'll get good pressure on Goff?
Good pressure is going to be an understatement. I think Hightower and Van Noy are going to have their way with him.
Flowers has been playing really good as well, coming off the edge, and Claiborne as well. I don't know, this is hard. I got to be objective because the Patriots, I'm a fan of the Patriots, but I got to swipe left. I don't think the Rams will be able to beat them, only because Todd Gurley's health is in question. He only
Very
had
much so.
4 carries for 10 yards the other day. C.J. Anderson's been getting the majority of the carries. I think the Patriots, you have Bill Belichick, the greatest coach in NFL history, arguably. He has 2 weeks to prepare for you defensively.
That's dangerous for anyone.
I think they'll be able to. They're without Cooper Kupp. I think they'll be able to make a run.
Yeah, they're out without the top wide receiver and without possibly their top running back. That's going to be tough to overcome Bill Belichick in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
BYU's men's basketball will win the West Coast Conference. They're currently in 4th place. Swipe left or swipe right?
I think this is an easy swipe left. BYU, Yoli Childs has had a really good year, breakout year from...
Impressive year.
Very impressive year. TJ Haws has improved quite a bit. They got shooters like Zach Celius, but I don't see them beating quality teams like St. Mary's and Gonzaga, who is constantly under Mark Few, one of the best teams in college basketball.
And best coach.
And one of the best coaches. So that's an easy swipe left for me. I don't see them finishing top 3.
It's an easy decision for me to swipe left due to the fact that I'm not a BYU fan. And BYU seems to, I don't know, since they've gotten the conference, kind of choke when it comes conference tourney play, where they play well and then come tournament time they kind of just dive off the map and they don't really give anyone a run for their money. So if they make it to the semis in the conference tournament, I'd be very surprised.
Same. All right, 5th and last one. The Boston Celtics will make it out of the East this year and go to the NBA Finals. Swipe right or swipe left?
That's a tough question. But for me, I'm going to swipe right because Kyrie gives them the edge. With all the young talent in the East, Kyrie has the experience of playing with LeBron and winning a championship. And so if Kyrie can continue to uplift his teammates and get Tatum going and get Hayward going, because Hayward's still coming back from the injury, and Horford's always a consistent player, and get that whole unit just rolling at the right time this year, I think they can make a run out of it, because Brad Stevens is one of those weirdly genius coaches that knows way too much and knows how to pick your weaknesses apart. So I think they make it to the finals this year.
Coach Stevens, as young as he is, he does know what he's doing. He knows to galvanize the troops. So, looking at the standings here, Boston's 5th. They're 6 games back of Milwaukee, who owns 34-12 record, first place in the East. And then you got Toronto, Indiana, Philly, and Boston. Boston was my pick to obviously make it out of the East, I was assuming Hayward will be healthy, and he hasn't quite hit that turn yet. He hasn't turned the corner of his health.
He's still struggling to find his groove.
And watching them take the King to 7 games last year in the Eastern Conference Finals, I expected Kyrie and Hayward just to come back healthy, them all mesh together and take their role and just go with it. But I got to swipe left. I don't think Boston's making it out of the East this year, and I just think that they're not equipped, and I think that Toronto's too deep, and Milwaukee and Philly and Indiana are good teams that can cause problems for the C's.
That's true, but in the East, the seeds really don't matter. We saw that last year with LeBron.
It's true.
So he made quick work of everyone kind of by himself. We want to thank all of you for tuning in to this week's episode.
Let us know what you thought of this episode by following us on Instagram @Crown Sports Podcast and on Twitter @Crown Sports Pod.